is Sulema Cajero, and I will be presenting mercury exposure in modern environment and effects on human health with the focus of dietary consumption. To begin, mercury is a naturally occurring chemical element found in rock in the Earth's crust, including deposits of coal. Mercury is a hazardous, bioaccumulative, and persistent contaminant, also often known as quicksilver. How does it come in contact with us humans? So one way mercury can be exposed to us is through eating. Methylmercury, one of the metal's forms, is what fish absorb from their food and water through their gills and is in every part of their anatomy. So humans accumulate it as they go up the food chain. Mercury is not only in the form of seafood, but naturally it is emitted from forest fires, soils, and volcanoes, and unnaturally emitted into the air from waste plants, mining, and fossil fuels, especially coal-fired power stations as its largest source of emission. Modern-day technology also uses mercury in barometers and fluorescent light bulbs, for instance. Evidently, the element reasonably surrounds the environment and humans have nowhere to escape it completely. In this picture, we see how mercury and methylmercury are related, as methylmercury is coming from mercury, and how this picture presents the ways mercury is emitted naturally and unnaturally and ends up in the ocean to be consumed by aquatic creatures such as krill, all the way up to larger species like sharks and such. Why is it a concern to human health? There is no cure, evidently, but multiple studies have shown connections to mercury and methylmercury to dietary factors, economic factors, and geographic factors through cross-sectional population-based biomonitoring studies and in-person interviews with bodily samples, of course, with the consent of the interviewees. The second point is through air and soil exposure. Women and children, especially in suburban areas from gasoline emissions in highways and such, are highly susceptible to the following effects, mostly in children, which include vision failure, coordination issues, muscular frailty, speech and neurological issues such as cognitive thinking, recollection, focus, language, and impaired fine motor skills. Through ingestion, the third point is specifically one's diet. The health risks posed by mercury in fish and shellfish are previously stated and are determined by how much of it was consumed, as well as the accumulation of mercury in the sea creatures. So this third point is referring to the previous picture with all the fish in the ocean. Alongside mercury consumption through diet, mercury is everywhere in everyday life, which include dental amalgams, which means in dentistry there are elements of mercury in things such as teeth fillings, batteries, jewelry, fluorescent lamps, paint, especially in homes built before the 1960s, blood pressure meters, and thermometers. Are there ways to determine who is more at risk? Geographically, people all throughout the world eat their fish with their meals at home and in food establishments. So consumption of fish is high in several nations, and so China, Vietnam, Myanmar, and Japan are the major consumer nations. Fish and shellfish are considered culturally important while also being the highest demand in modern international trade. Overall, there is no escaping mercury contamination, yet being mindful of diet and living areas will contribute to levels of exposure. In layman's terms, on that last point, there is no cure, as previously stated, but there are ways to manage how much will accumulate into your body. To conclude, multiple studies have found that mercury consumption, air soil levels, geology, race, gender, ethnicity, and even socioeconomic factors all have a substantial positive connection with mercury exposure through diet, with fish and shellfish as well as coal and mining plantations attributing more to mercury exposure than any other food and exposure category. It was discovered that individuals living in seaside locations had a comparatively high mercury intake, and as a result, a high level of immune, neurological, central, and growth inhibitions. This concludes my presentation. Thank you so much for listening in, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.